video. And today, like I said at the beginning of the show, we're talking thought leadership, how to leverage thought leadership in the 21st century. So basically leveraging thought leadership in the 21st century. Some people may be wondering, what is thought leadership? What does it entail? Why do I even have to be a thought leader? And all of that. But we'll get to find out here on the show today with my guest. So I have with me the head of communications and media relations, system specs, Oyindamola Olofinlua. Good morning, Oyindamola. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Comfort. Good to be here again.
Good to be here again, right? You're welcome.
Not behind the scenes.
Not behind the scene, right? No problem. You're welcome to the show.
Thank
Okay,
you.
now we're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it immediately. Now I saw on your your Instagram bio yesterday that you're a radio addict. Tell us about that. Why are you a radio addict? Why? When did your love for radio start? Let's start with that.
Oh, you want us to go memory lane?
Yes, please.
Down
Let's go
memory
there.
lane. So my love for radio began in days of, I'm not that old, in days of Echo FM, when they were just the only
You're not
stations.
that old, right?
When they're just about the major stations in Nigeria. In those days was OGBC that we started to listen to. But I was in secondary school when I really fell in love with radio. Used to be Echo FM playing every day Asha's song, Ujumotimo. And every day I looked forward to listening to Asha's Ujumotimo wake up song. Then I began to listen to various programs on radio till I also began to feature on radio programs even as a teenager. I got to know how radio works from behind the scenes and then see what goes into getting a show going. And for about 3 decades, I've been glued to my radio. So I'd rather go without television, newspaper, and possibly, can I say that with my chest? Without the internet, if I have radio.
Really?
Because I have just about everything I need.
Wow. Interesting. Okay, so would you say that your love for radio influenced your career choices?
Definitely. I like to say that everything or most of the things I learned today, except outside of books, I learned most of them from radio. And it goes beyond even my work life. Everything. Relationships, friendships. No, long before I got married.
Yeah.
I got to learn a lot about marriage. There was this show on that same station.
Okay.
On Fridays at 10 p.m. and it was about real life marriage wahala, and it was like you're attached to a live wire. I mean, it was so real that I got to learn firsthand from the guys who were in the field of marriage. I learned what you could do and what you could not do. Of course, I also learned that there's no rule as such for it. It depends on how you want it to work.
All of this on radio.
On radio. So it's like a school for me. Till today,
You still listen to radio?
I still do.
Interesting. Okay, let's get to the topic of today: leveraging thought leadership in the 21st century. Now, we're going to start with the basic question, which is, what is thought leadership? I sent out a broadcast this morning, and somebody popped up and said, "What do you mean by thought leadership? What is thought leadership?" I was like, "Okay, don't worry, just tune in and listen to the show, and then you get all of the answers." So, Oyindamola, what is thought leadership?
So I like to make it simple. It's a combination of 2 words, thoughts and leadership. And thought has to do with the cognitive process. Let me break it down.
Yeah.
Anything that has to do with the use of the mind to generate ideas. Okay. Those are thoughts. And then leadership is a sphere of influence, the ability to influence others to do what you want them to do. So if you combine both words, thoughts, the ability to use words to influence others. So I just say it's a way of making people think about your brand, how exactly you want them to think about it, irrespective of what is out there about your brand. So it's ability to influence people in a certain direction, which even they might not be aware of, about what you want them to think. So it's about you being able to, beyond your own mind, being able to mold the minds of others in a certain way.
Okay, so that means a thought leader is someone that does all of these things.
Yes.
Okay. Now, knowing that everyone has an opinion, how does thought leadership thrive and remain relevant across industries?
So thought leadership thrives across industries by first being a deliberate act. You don't just stumble upon it. So behind it are two things: strategy and intention. So you have to be strategic about it and you have to be intentional about it. So it's not just enough to put out content. It's enough to know what you are putting out there, who this audience is for, and how you want the audience to interpret that message. So you have to first analyze, first off, how do I want to be perceived? So I am a financial literacy expert, for instance, and I'm also an oil and gas professional. But I also like to talk. Which of these would I put ahead? So if a person goes on my timeline, for instance, or if they read about me online, if I say something on social media, or I grant an interview, which of these perception of me would I want them to go away with? You have to be clear about that. And then you have to know who you want to speak with. Your message can't be for everybody. So you have to be able to channel your message in a particular way such that your audience that you want to speak with are able to digest it. You know, in speech, there's something called voice. You have a voice. You have to also create a voice around your brand. Today, if I read FFK, who writes, I don't usually agree with him, what he writes. But then I love to read him. Because
he's thought provoking.
Yes, because irrespective of whatever is writing, it's a beauty to hear him speak and to hear him or read him. Same thing for a columnist who's a veteran, by the way, like Daddy Babarinsa, or Iruben Abati. You don't have to agree with them, but they have content that you want to go with. So you have to, and they have a voice. So you have to be able to create that voice that if this person, not the tone of your voice, I mean, there's a mannerism to your expressions. There is a way you come about your words, your delivery. You have to have that that perception about you, and then you have to be intentional. So it's not a one-off thing.
It's a continuous one.
Yes, it's a continuous activity.
Now, I know you talked about, when people come on your page or meet you, the takeouts you want them to go with, what you want them to go with after interacting with maybe your social media or you as an individual. We're going to get to all of that. But in this day and time, we know that a lot of people everyone has an opinion. So would you say that a thought leader could be anybody with just an opinion on something, on a particular thing or on a particular field or idea?
So let me backtrack a bit. In the last 5 years, or let's say in the last 10 years, even 5 years, because of the way innovation has gone, there's so much. There have been more content generated online than you've had in the last 5,000 years. So it means everybody is saying something. So there's a noise.
Sometimes even if it's false.
Yes, there's a noise out there, so you have to make your message distinct. And there's a thing about validity, and there's a thing about uniqueness, and all of this stem from a place of knowledge. People can't dispute the facts that emerge from knowledge. And however, it is not enough to just have knowledge. How you present this knowledge also matters. Somebody gave an example of a very well-known politician in Nigeria whose matter is still raging, is actually known as being very controversial. Sometimes he says things that are very correct, but goes about it the wrong way. He likes to grab the headlines. So even if you were on his side, you would not want to be seen to be on his side because of the manner in which the message is delivered. So because there's so much noise out there, you have to ensure that you are speaking on the pedestal of facts. And your facts has to be grounded in knowledge. And when you combine facts and knowledge, your content will be largely indisputable. Even if at the time when you're delivering the content, people don't agree with you. But internet never forgets. The internet always keeps
We are coming to that issue of the internet.
So people can always go back to reference it. So it's important to come from the place of knowledge and facts.
Okay, now let's look at people who they are not currently working in a particular field. They're not studying or learning in that field, but they have so much opinion related to that particular field. Would you say these persons are also thought leaders? They're not working in that field. They're not studying or learning anything from that field at a particular time, but they have an opinion or they have several opinions. Would you still refer to this person as a thought leader? Because sometimes when I go to somebody's bio, I read up, I check what you do. I want to check out the thin lines. Do you have a background in this? What makes you an authority to tell me this? I want to check all of those things. So would you refer to such a person as a thought leader?
So let me start with this. As with all things, leadership is a process. You don't stumble into it. Even if you have a position that you don't deserve. Leadership is not a position. It's something that you build in the course of time. And then having an opinion is not enough. It is not enough. So if you combine those two thoughts, it means that even if you have an opinion about a field that you're not an expert in, it doesn't mean you're a thought leader. You must have been putting out correct, verifiable information about that field over a period of time. If you have not been doing that, you must be able to disrupt the system that's been existent, such that whatsoever existed before you is able to be pushed aside for yours to stand. So it's not enough to have an opinion. You have to also be able to build that opinion over a period of time. And it comes to the point I made about being consistent. And even if you have an opinion and you keep passing that opinion to the wrong audience, I'm sorry, it won't go anywhere. So you have to be sure about what you're saying, so that if cost matter enter ground, enter you go fit stand your stand, say you have proof, and that this thing is not, as they say in popular parlance, fabu. You're not just saying these things to assuage people or make emotions go sensational. So you have to be sure of your facts, and you have to know who you're speaking to, and you also have to be sure that your opinions are not just opinions, and that they are disruptive.
Okay, listeners at home, the numbers to call if you have questions. You're talking leverage and thought leadership in the 21st century with Oyindamola, Olofinlua. So feel free to call if you have questions, you want to make comments, or you know my guest, you know Oyindamola, and you want to shout out to him. Feel free to call. The numbers are 07018001783 or 09131384110. I'll take the numbers again: 07018001783 or 09131384110. Now, I know you've mentioned having an area of expertise when you defined thought leadership and all of that. But then let's take a look at an individual who does so many things. This person is good, in this day of side hustle. This person is good with this. This person is good with that. This person is good with this. So how do I find a voice? How am I able to, because I have expertise in like 3 fields now. So how am I able to pick out one and say, okay, this is the one I would go for? Now, would it be okay to just write about the 3 of them? Would it be okay to have opinions about the 3 of them? Then how do I leverage? How do I get a niche and say, okay, this is what I am sticking to?
So I've been in that situation before, not personally, but 2 people I've had to help get a voice in their spaces. And it's also very, very common. And you mentioned earlier on that people can have an interest in a space that is not their industry.
Yeah.
That is also very possible. So first thing you have to do as an individual or your brand is to identify those areas that you have interest. That's the first. The second thing, you have to see whether there's a link between those areas. So, for instance, you like to sing, you like to write, and then you're also a scientist.
Okay.
So
why are they like this?
So you can see that the first 2 are actually linked.
Yeah.
They are both in the art.
Exactly.
So it's easier to manage those. And then the third one is a bit slightly very off, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So you decide whether you want to go first. So you can't it's possible to be seen as both, but it doesn't happen at the same time. You can't, if you want to position yourself for a particular platform, or as a particular person, the platform that will give you that leverage will likely not enable you push those two different worlds of brand perception at the same time. So you have to be sure which one you want to go with. Is that either being about being a musician and a writer first,
Maybe musician and writer on Instagram and Twitter,
or
then
being
LinkedIn scientist.
no, you don't want to have that brand conflict.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
you have to go with that's my recommendation anyway. You have to go with one first, and then when that thrives enough, you can now begin to chip in the other one and push the other narrative, and then eventually both can come hand in hand, because ordinarily the audiences for both groups are different, so they shouldn't clash. But people also who are somewhere in between both worlds will likely find out that you're this other person also. But you have to be able to balance the narrative. You start with one aspect of your interest and then push the other eventually.
Okay. I know you mentioned having a target audience when you started. So let's look at how important is having a target audience, or having an audience, at least. Let's start from there. Having an audience when it comes to being a thought leader. Now, yeah, let's start from there. We'll get to the other one.
Okay. Of course, every message has an audience. Every message has an audience. But not every audience is for every message. So you have to be sure that your content is for a particular audience, and you have to clearly define them. When I say clearly, I mean clearly define them. So let's do this. So you have a food and beverage brand, for instance, and in your industry you want to be seen as the first in class or top in class, or when they mention food and drinks,
your name comes
you want to be top of mind. But your food and drink brands are not affordable by everybody. They are a bit pricey, perhaps because you provide a unique kind of product that others don't provide. Yeah. So you have to first distill your audience by saying that. So first, can a Yaba Tech student afford to buy this pack of chocolate that goes for 1,000 naira, when there are others that can be gotten for 200 naira? So you have to say that when I'm putting my message together across to my audience, this audience in Yaba Tech is not likely my audience. This audience that I'm looking at are the guys who can afford to pay 1,000 naira for this. They are likely working class people. They earn a consistent income and can afford to push aside that amount of money. They have a need for this, possibly because it's a quick cereal, or they have children that will need it. So you have to clearly define who that audience is and who you are speaking to, and then you can begin to talk about how does this audience want to be heard, or let me say it this way: how does this audience speak? So if I'm a fisher, I have a register. Okay, registers are words used in a particular context. So if you want to speak to me, don't start talking about let's do something that's off. Don't talk about science fiction or about Chimamanda. It won't fly. Talk about nets, talk about fish, talk about water. It will fly. So you have to then speak in the language your audience would understand for you to be able to bring them to your side, or make them even listen to you.
Okay. All right. We're still here. We're still talking to Oyindamola Olofinlua on the topic leveraging thought leadership in the 21st century. The phone lines are still open: 07018 001783, 09131384110. Those are the numbers to call to be part of the show. Now, we know for sure that for every industry, there are thousands and thousands of thought leaders. How can one stand out in terms of the kind of content and the angle used in addressing the issues or putting out the content? Okay, what I said is there are a lot of thought leaders in different industries and different sectors. So how can one stand out in terms of the content that you churn out and the angle in which you churn out this content?
So you have to first ask yourself, genuinely, and not because anybody is pushing you, do I have a message? Or do I have something that is unique to pass across?
Okay.
So there's something called USP, unique selling proposition. So if there are 10 of us in this space that are known, or if there are guys before you who are known as thought leaders in this space, what have they been saying? How would my voice make a difference? Or even ask it this way, what difference do I hope to make? Why should I even join the foray of conversations happening in this space? Once you are clear about that, you can then begin to pass your message across. Because if you are not clear about that, I'm sorry, you just be lost in the crowd. And because there is so much information out there, as a matter of fact, the audience has too much. The audience has too much to consume. And this is across all platforms, traditional, online, electronic. There's so much to consume. So for anyone to listen to you, you have to be worthy of being listened to. If you're not, you'll be a waste of time. You don't want to be that.
Okay, now in doing all of these things, do I need to check out my competitors, find out who is saying what, who is writing about this, who is doing this? Is it because it's a different thing? I'm not selling anything. No. I just want to put out my thoughts and be a thought leader in a particular industry. So does that require that I am also like a market woman who checks out what is ERVC selling, what is this one doing, what is that one doing?
Certainly. So you have to scan your environment for what is relevant, what others are saying, because others who will listen to you have also listened to those people very likely, or are abreast of what the latest information is. So you have to know what others are saying in that space, and also be able to make your point. You have to be clear on what it is you want to say, because you don't want to be, as I keep saying, lost in that crowd. You have to know what is trendy. For instance, if you want to jump on trends, for instance, you have to know. So you have to be up to date with the right information. Otherwise, you have to scan the environment, and there's what is done in PR around having news alerts, and there are social media platforms or tech applications that can help you even scan your environment, know the latest conversation about this for you to be able to contribute, because you can't afford to be speaking about a contemporary issue with a mindset or knowledge of the 20th or 19th century. You'll be lost and no one will listen to you.
Okay, we're gonna go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue with our discussion or our chat with Oyindamola Olofinlua on leveraging thought leadership in the 21st century. Stick around. I'll be back after this break. Okay, I'm giving you time to do all of the things that you're doing. What happened? Give my phone first. Should give my phone. What's happening?
I have people looking for me.
Work.
Work. Yeah, work. Yeah, work is still work. Personal work and non-personal work. I didn't share the stuff. The material.
Trudy, please help me call. Help me call them. This system has gone off and I can't see the calls and stuff chipping. Yes, just call her or any other person. How long more do you need?
I'm okay. Anytime you're ready.
Are you sure? Just give me a minute. I won't shoot it to the back.
Should I just said it?
No. I went on break because of you. I noticed that you're a bit distracted.
Somebody I'm owing a job as a sent it down.
Okay.
I never even open now.
Yes, shoot it. Shoot it. Did you get anyone? Okay. Yeah, this system just went blank. Can I go back on air while you try to do what you do? It's just not everything.
To come back
No. I'm still on air.
when you try, I'll come and do it.
So I should continue. Where's my bed?
Which bed are you using?
Go to Jingles. It's there. Spotlight. Go to Spotlight. That's it. Spotlight. No. Scroll down. Okay, that's it. Spotlight bed. Let me drop the promo. No, that's not it though. Spotlight bed. See Spotlight bed. Yes. Okay, help me put this promo here too, so I can. If I need to go on the quick.
Which one?
Promo, yes. The promo. Okay. Alright. We're going back. Studio live. Yeah, welcome back. This is still Spotlight here on Yabatek Radio 89.3 FM, and we have been talking leveraging thought leadership in the 21st century with Oyindamola, Olofinlua. So if you have questions, you want to make comments, feel free to call the phone lines and I'll be here to take your calls. If you know Oyindamola, you've worked with him before, feel free to call as well. The numbers again are 07018001783 or 09131384110. Those are the numbers to call to be part of the show this morning. Now, Oyindamola, my next question to you is this. So, have you ever found yourself in a situation whereby you keep reading a particular person? Yes, the person is, looking for different angles to come, but you get bored. You get tired of reading this particular person, not because the person has not devised new means to communicate the content, but I don't know, for some reason you get bored. The question is, how do you make your content to be evergreen, that people will not get bored of it?
So the first thought that went to my mind is, or crossed my mind is,
Yes.
Can all content be evergreen? I wouldn't say so. So it depends on the space in which the content is being created.
Okay.
And it depends on how the content is created. So I like to advise those who want to go into this space of content creation is to first remember that people that they are speaking to are human beings and should relate to them as though they are human beings. So your content should be relatable. It means that I should not have to crack or rack my brain to be able to digest or understand what you're talking about. So one way you can do that is to, so one style actually that you can deploy is to make your content conversational, such that the person reading can seamlessly follow what you're saying, and that it's able to flow or relate with them in a very easy manner. That way you likely will not be boring. We can also latch on trends. Okay. But also you have to be careful the trends that you latch on and how you latch on it. There are certain trends that for how you want to be perceived, latching on it to be a disadvantage. So you have to be able to discern that does this particular trend favor how I want to be perceived, or if not, is there a way I can leverage it to my advantage? So there's a content recently that was shared on Instagram about a not so popular brand, from a not so popular brand, and it was around the popular expression. I don't want to say it, but let me say it. It's about. It's about. No, there's no effort.
Okay, then say it.
About men being.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't like to admit it, but the copy actually caught my attention. So men has come, and that's it. But they were also able to devise. It was on Father's Day or International Men's Day. They were able to devise a way of converting the supposedly negative message into a positive one. So by finding very nice, so turnings come into um, a representative of a bigger word.
Okay.
So S stands for whatever it is you can find for it. C stands for whatever it is. U maybe unique. Man, M is
men.
whatever. No, not men. No. You're more special than that. So it's about how you communicate it. So men has come is an expression that is negative. But if you
It's
are,
just like goats. Greatest of all
can
time.
you imagine? Can you imagine a old calling a old human being a goat?
goat.
But then there's something, and then that's actually been accepted to be a norm, such that if I call you a goat,
Automatically.
it doesn't have to be negative. Automatically, there's a positive sense to it.
No, but I usually ask, which of the goats do you mean? Is it goats, animal,
So,
or greatest of all time?
so perhaps men can also turn the words "come" into a positive narration. So who says that somebody can't write a piece or push a trend that would drive something that is new around the expression "come"? That men are indeed "come," but it stands for something positive. So you can change that.
Oyindamola 2021. Anyways, let's talk about content that are sellable. To you, what would you say? What makes a content sellable, or what would you consider as a high quality content?
So I would say a sellable or high quality content is a content that's, as they say in churches, that meets the audience at their point of need. Hallelujah. Somebody.
Amen. Amen. Trudy, are you there?
Glory. So your content should meet your audience at the point of their need. It should be relevant. It should not be something that they have to struggle to understand. And that's why I mentioned earlier that you have to speak to them how exactly they want to understand. That sounds very simple, but many people are not able to do that. In this age and time when we are an instant generation, we want things done sharp. We are very impatient. So everything is, they actually call us the Indomie generation.
Exactly.
So we are the instantaneous generation. We don't have time to sit down and read long articles or to have
paper, journals, review.
As a matter of fact, I bought a very popular newspaper recently, and I was shocked about how lean the paper was. It shows you that there's no audience for that paper. Everybody has gone online. So for a millennial or for a Generation Z person, if you're giving them content, for instance, and you give them a book, a hard copy book for that matter, I'm not sure you would achieve what you want to achieve.
No, hold on. Let's test it out. Trudy, hard copy, soft copy.
Hard copy anytime.
Trudy, by the way, is a Gen Z.
Well, there are exceptions like that, but if you check the majority, you can do a
True.
You can do a survey online and check.
I agree though.
The majority, even
Trudy is just an exception.
and that I'm an exception to anyway. So if you do a survey today and ask people's preference, younger people, their preference for a book, or say a book or its adaptation, even though most times the book is more detailed, they rather do the book. So they rather do the movie because it's sharp. It seems like more fun. It's
1 hour, 1 hour, 30 minutes.
You don't stress me, please. So they tell you that. So give your audience what they want in the exact manner they want it, what they want it. Also, there's something about giving to get. So give to get. So there's content created from the perspective of the content creator. which would go wrong.
Okay.
Automatically to go wrong. But if your content is created from the angle of your audience, so it's like a gimmick. I use the word loosely, gimmick. So I want you to get a particular message, but I don't want to be in your face. So I come across as being your friend. I tell you, it's like you're toasting a lady. You're asking her out. You come from whatever excites her. Tell her what she wants to hear.
Yeah.
And then you go to your message. So
Go
I
to the main
first,
point.
yes, but you don't just go straight. Or you tell me what I just first thing you have to do is to engender interest. Engender your audience interest. If they are not interested from the first line, if you are writing it, or from the first few words you utter, if it is recorded, if it is video or audio, you've lost it.
Them.
So you must be able to get their attention from the beginning, from the first utterance or from the first word that you write. Sometimes it just takes one expression to get somebody on your side and get them to listen through. So if you apply these little tricks here and there, I'm sure you would.
I think that's why I read some articles online to tell you, oh, if you got to this point, well done. If you read up to this point, well done, you tried. Okay, so let's look at consistency. I know you touched on that earlier. The issue sometimes is not about starting. It is easy to start. Anybody can start. Anybody can start churning out content. Anybody can start being a top leader in a particular field or expertise, bringing out, writing about the expertise and all of and the likes of it. But the question is consistency. How do I stay consistent? Are there strategies to help people to be consistent in terms of their in terms of how they churn out content, in terms of how they try to reach their audience? I know some people will tell you, oh, I do weekly newsletters, or I write on social media weekly, or I do every 2 days, or I do every 3 days. What strategies do you think would work in this 21st century?
Thank you for that question. I will speak from some bit of a personal experience. I would think first, what is key is time management, which is the killer of all things. If you don't manage the time well, it would be badly spent and you would not know when it passes. You must be able to plan your time well to be able to be consistent. It's as simple as having a to-do list every day. And in all honesty,
what if I decide to ignore that particular to-do?
So you have to prioritize. So you can have 10 items on you, and you have to be realistic also. If you have 10 items, how many can you really do?
Yeah.
So you have to place them in the order of priority. So which is more important? Which if I don't do, which is urgent? Which if I don't do now, would cost me. So put those first, and then as you tick them off, please remove the item that you've done, and then, as they say in everything in life, no man is an island.
Assign some, Abby.
Yes, you have to assign some of the things you think others can help you with. For instance, some people are looking for knowledge in some aspects, and you have this knowledge, and you have so much on your hands. You don't have to pay somebody to do it for you. You can just ask them to do it. Anyway, I have to be very sure about that. You have to motivate some people to do something for you, but you can get someone to help you with some of your tasks that you want to do. And I said something about time management, and that is also planning. There's something about content creation that has to do with being able to let your content breathe. So if I want to write an article that will be used, say next week, I can start putting my points together from today or from last week. I could have started last week, and then it could be in my head. Honestly, it could be in my head, and as I'm bathing, taking my bath in the morning, I am noting it somewhere. And as soon as I realize that I have what it takes, for me, as soon as I have the first word or the first line to start a piece, I go out for it. And because I already have these ideas already building in my head, when I start, I likely will not stop. If I stop, the next time,
it will not flow.
It likely will not flow. So also there's something about being able to plan your content ahead of time. So if you're a social media manager, for instance, there are tools you can use to develop your content and schedule them ahead of time. So you don't. So if you have content to go, say in 2 weeks' time, you've already scheduled them. Just ensure that the content is
Ready.
it is ready and then relevant. So what you're doing is that you're preparing content for 2 weeks. You don't know what will be relevant at that time. So it has to be a fairly timeless content that is relevant irrespective of time. And there's some kind of content that are relevant per day. I mean, they are more fit for a particular day.
International Men's Day.
Yes, for
Women's
instance,
Day. It's just,
public holidays have a particular kind of content for them. Fridays have a particular kind of content for them. So don't put a Monday content for a Friday, except you're a gym. It likely will not fly. So you have to be able to plan what you have to do ahead of time. And then, so summary, create a list, get help, be able to plan, and then, what else did I say?
flow with the list.
Flow with the list. Thank you.
Okay, now let's also look at this aspect of the internet never forgets. So, as a thought leader, I write something today, and tomorrow it changes.
I saw that coming.
It changes, and your followers are like, oh, but you said, especially now that people can go and dig out tweets of 10 years ago or 5 years ago, dig it out and say, but you said this in so year. Why are you changing that? So how,
they say, why are you changing mouth?
Yes, why are you changing mouth? So what are those things? What are those things that I need to be aware of? How do I turn on my content that would not place me in a position whereby people can come for me later in the future when things change?
So 2 things. First, let prophets be prophets. If you are not one, don't prophesy.
Hallelujah.
Amen, sister. Second thing, it depends on your personality. My kind of personality would not likely prophesy. I would not likely predict what I'm not sure of, except I am foolproof that this will not fail. And I'm of the school of thought that if a person said a thing would happen and it didn't happen, the person is allowed to retract. At least a professional should be humble enough to say I was wrong here, and that, see, I had these thoughts guiding me, but here I realized that I was wrong, and I'm taking this stance now. They would come for you, they would troll you, but you know what you're doing. You're attempting to salvage your integrity.
I like that word. You're attempting.
Because in honest truth, the honest truth is that your integrity, once it's gone, it's actually gone. You can only try to save face. So I would recommend that you don't grandstand when you have no proof or you're not a prophet. And when you go wrong, with your full chest, you must be able to retract.
So with my full chest, being able to retract. Well, I don't know.
There's a proverb for you. They say, forgive me. They say,
you will interpret, don't worry.
Tó bá ní pé tí máa ní pé adé mi máa gún. Bí ó sì gún, whatever it is.
So you know,
it means
you don't even know the full form.
it means that let me transliterate what it means. It means that if I say not the ideal, it means that if I say that something will happen and it doesn't happen, or I choose not to make it happen, it's the same me that will come back and say that this thing, no, I said it will happen, it's not going to happen, and I'll own up to it.
But do you think that there's some things that you really can't be in the middle? You have to be here or there. Sometimes, like when I speak, sometimes I try to be in the middle. So a lot of my conversations are I think, or in my own opinion, no, I think that. But there's some other times that you have to be here or there. So going back to say, oh, I'm no longer here, I am now here. Do you think that the trust people have in you being an authority in a particular field will somehow reduce or something?
So I'm of the school of thought that in thought leadership you have to be opinionated. And being opinionated means that you have a stance. but your stance is not in isolation.
Okay.
Your stance is taken from a full consideration of the possible angles to a matter. So you have considered this side, you've considered that side, and you are putting forth arguments based on both sides. And then what I typically would do, or typically do, is that I would say that based on the facts before me, if this happens, I foresee this likely
Outcome.
being the outcome. So what I said is likely. I'm not being certain. I'm not saying I have a crystal ball to say this was going to happen in the future. I'm just saying that if this is the case, this is the probable result. Okay. If this other side is the case, this will be the probable result. That way you're not putting yourself, you're not setting yourself for failure. So you're just preparing people's minds for the possibilities. So what you do as a thought leader sometimes is also to put the thoughts out there and let your followers, let your listeners, let your readers choose their stance. What you're doing is to open their minds to the possible angles that exist, exposing them to the facts that are before them or that you are aware of, which they very likely are not aware of. So you're exposing them to those facts and then putting them in the line of, not line of fire, but in the line of the reality. And then see, this is A, fact A, this is fact B before you also. You have the opportunity to choose. Choose based on your belief, based on your culture, based on your experiences. It's left to you.
Now, there's this thing of age. People, like recently, I was reading Solomon, I know you know him. He talked about him still, I think he just graduated from school or something like that, and him being a young boy, and people were like, so all of this wisdom coming from this small boy and everything. So, does being a thought leader in any field, does it have anything to do with age, And one last question before we go, we have a few seconds to leave here, is for those who are still thinking, should I start, I am very good in this particular field, should I come out as a thought leader? But they are still scared, they are still trying, they are still fidgeting. What would you say to them?
So first question about whether being a thought leader has to do with age. I don't think so. I think it has to do more with exposure. What have you seen in life? What have you done in life? What have you been through in life for you to be able to dish what is considered wise and unique? Second question around
for those who want to go in, who want to start, that are still fidgeting.
So I like to advise people not to fidget. Start where you are. Whatever you have is a good place to start. Just be intentional about your message. Know what exactly you are speaking to or speaking about. Ensure that you are not lost in the crowd. And even if you are lost in the crowd, you don't become a leader overnight. Let your thoughts be there. Give the internet your thoughts. Let the thoughts build over time. Someone will find you. The opportunity you're looking forward to harnessing will come through that thought. For instance, there are platforms online that you can explore to put out weekly content, even beyond social media. Put out weekly content that can place you as a thought leader in a particular space. People are following you. You don't know them. People are following you. So just keep being consistent, and then you'll get there eventually.
Thank you so much. Key takeouts. Start with what you have and start where you are. Thank you so much, Oyindamola, for coming on the show today. Yes, Shudi, you wanted to say something?
No, I got something from what he said. He said, wherever you are is a good place to start.
Yes, wherever you are is a good place to start. I hope my listeners at home enjoyed the show today. Until I come your way again next Wednesday, they do have a fantastic and fantabulous, all of them have a fantastic Wednesday and stay safe. Until I come your way, bye. And this is Comfort Uwakhonye.
That's the very first time I heard you mention your name, your son. Is it a new sign?
Hey, what did you say? Let me, I have your time now. Wait. Let me end this video.